So today I'm going to talk about Litecoin today. Uh, it's about I'm an open source developer, William Chong. I'm a full stack developer. So I used to be a game developer. I mainly concentrate on open source community, concentrating in crypto. So what's Litecoin about? Litecoin is a startup in Hong Kong. We have a public blockchain for content creators to retrieve the source and document version and to enable creative content can better develop their ecology. We have collaborated with media platforms, for example, uh, the People's News. We have various collaboration relationships, and you can see some figures below. So we have a 70,000 likers to participate in this ecology, and readers can like the contents that they like. So there are more than 6,000 websites participating. So one, I received a message from Facebook and post something on my wall that, oh, William is the second most committer in GitHub in Hong Kong. So I'm not flexing. And you can see some familiar faces here. So now I have fall back to the fourth on GitHub. So you can see the comments below. The company's code is on GitHub and open source, LOL. So it's being quite sarcastic, really. I was thinking, when my company's code is on GitHub and open source should be more common practice. In Litecoin, we have been adopting this practice for 2 to 3 years. So how 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 come only 3 years in GitHub experience can boost me into the fourth place in Hong Kong's GitHub commit uh, rate? So there should be more people doing this. No matter you're doing IT startup or not, you should have a open culture and open workflow. Why open? First of all, so what have we done in Litecoin to help us open and how to minimize our overhead? And what troubles have we encountered? So you might have the same experience as well. So these might not be the best approach. So we welcome your. So if you have better ideas, please comment and Q&A and share your opinion. So so all the workflow and tools that we adopted are open source. So in my presentation below, there are some contexts that fits best. First, we use internet product startup. So if you're a vendor, for example, Facebook or Google, if you're doing crowdfunding projects, for example, Kickstarter, you're making board games or publishing a book, then you also fits into our startup context or our scenario. So if if you're doing blockchain or crypto projects, so particularly if you're doing crypto, then you need your users to trust. Why trust? This, these are some of the cap screens from our Facebook promotion. So not all of them are negative. These are just selected ones. So they doubt whether we are scammers. So when you're doing crypto in Hong Kong, there would be a confidence problems because why do we want to be open? There are some benefits. First of all, community. So your users or potential users and your hardcore fans, the trust is a important element in crowdfunding, in blockchain. There are doubts. If you can be more transparent, then they will have more trust and participate in using your product. Second of all, the loyalty. So there is a psychological effect called IKEA effect. What is that? When someone is you bought a already assembled furniture, they would be happy. But if the same price, they can only afford an unassembled furniture. Although the quality is less than perfect, but they would be more satisfied with that piece of furniture. So this point applies to those who are doing internet product startups. Then your product is continuous developing. Then if the user is able to provide feedbacks and you can interact with them quickly, then they can you will gain the loyalty and satisfaction. And first of all, you need to be open about what you're doing and the flow charts, and then they can provide useful feedbacks. Otherwise, they won't participate. If you want to attract developers to participate in a project, why? Some developers likes technical feedbacks, and when a user using a product, or they will just delete the apps if they don't like it. Only developers will see the bug and investigate what's going on, and they will fix it. So when they participate, then you need a open source flowchart and method, and you have an open data source so that they can discover the bugs and fix your bugs or provide feature requests. And to sum it up, it will add up to your brand, developers and users, and product brand. For example, I am studying and you're a student, and I see you a lot, very active in the open source communities. And if the students see you embracing the open culture, then the student might select you in the future and find you more attractive so that you can attract more high quality candidates to work in your startup. So you can imagine, for example, Google and Apple wants to hire you, and you find yourself more attracted to the former. Open by default. What is that? I, as a developer, so it's similar to technical debt. What is technical debt? Is when you're coding, there are because you're saving time, then there are a lot of delayed features. Sometimes you want to clean up the accumulated debts from your code. Then you cannot fix them all at once. So it complicates things, really. From the point of view of a developer, a better way would be don't accumulate debt, and every time try to spend more time in hiring the quality of your code and workflow. And as the more open that you are doing, so if your company embrace open culture, then you might be calculating immediately about the man hours consumed, and when the beginning, you can use sometimes to build openness, then it will make things easier. Sometimes you are not expecting the effect from an open project. There will be many surprises from developers and users. So you're open to community and open to technicians. And internally, you have to open as well. So if your internal colleagues do not know what you are doing, then it will be useless. So what are the surprises that the community might provide? So this is we put our LikeCoin app on Apple Store, and we updated it, and GPL at level 3, version 3. So you can complain or provide feedbacks. So there's a friend from Taiwan that says that you need Signal login for this GPL version 3 license. So there's a conflict between the Apple's licensing and GPL version 3 licensing. So you can see from the feedback of these Taiwanese friends. So this is a review that we are doing in Hong Kong. So update constantly with your community and feedback to your community what you are doing, explain what you are doing. Why? So that the community will know what you're doing. It's very important because if they don't know what you're doing, then they don't have the foundation to participate in your product or your discussion of your startup, and they can't contribute. Another point is that when you're crowdfunding or doing YCO, people seeing you inactive would doubt whether you have already went bankrupt. So that you need to let them know that you still exist. So what we're doing recently, because of the COVID-19 pandemic, many people are using Zoom. So we are doing our weekly review with Zoom. So when people when absent from your meeting, you can actually make your meeting details open. So every week, we will have a web conference and submit it online. So currently we have suspended our public webinars. So our data analytic colleagues will provide captures and our track records to put it on our internal communication platforms and write some analysis and make them public. So this is our weekly progress update. So there will be a data map for our LikeCoin chain and what our communal developments. The third point is when we're doing our weekly assembly, so somebody filled our assembly and write up a summary and review and put them online. So what are the difficulties that we faced? So there is this time difference problem and language difference between Cantonese and Taiwanese. So we need to concern about privacy during the meeting. So don't talk about private things or public recordings. When you have sensitive things and clients' demands, then we will have another meeting. So security problem emerges in Zoom, then you need another open source solution. For example, GC. Internally, there are often internal sharings. We will have our internal sharing, but how do you make it public? So there are affiliates who want to participate too. It also helps your product marketing and branding and community participation. You listen to your community, or you need Slack, Discord, Telegram, and other online tools. We have a LikeCoin Discuss. You can look it up. LikeCoin chain have an internal governance system. When the community are participating, here are some complaints and misunderstandings. So there are negative feedbacks and doubtful, even antagonistic. This is a good chance to understand the concerns of your community and what are the misunderstandings. There was this one time we have a time delay, so maybe we didn't explain clear enough, so it provides the opportunities for us to explain to them and make things easier for them. Of course, for negative comments, actually relates to how often you update your community. If you are in better communication with your users, then they don't have so much misunderstandings. So this is about our self-governance ecology. So we are decentralized. The LikeCoin Foundation don't own everything. There are validators. Validators are open to participate. If you have a LikeCoin chain node, then you own certain amount of LikeCoins, and you are confident in us, then you can become a LikeCoin chain validator. You can provide proposals on governance. So there are various governance proposals. Different validators, according to the amount of LikeCoins that they have at hand, can have the mandate and waivings to vote. For example, this is one proposal. So here are some backgrounds and proposals. And from our official account, so somebody have to promote this proposal and explain why there's such proposal. And there will be a final round voting. You can see a 100% approval rate on this proposal. So opposite votes are not necessary in this. When you're talking about open source governance, then you associate with putting things on open repository. So you can open a PR, a pull request to request for features. So when you're writing a pull request, usually you are treating it seriously. You can do an open standard. For example, LikeCoin allowed the content providers to put the various creative contents on blockchain and on decentralized cloud storage. These things need a standard to put in the metadata. For example, we have this ISCN standard. If you're interested, you can participate in our talk tomorrow morning. How do you do an open repository? We use GitHub. Somebody says if you are use really open source, there's a choice between an open source service. using all open source service in a open source project. If you're using an open issue tracker internally, then in the future, when others participate, they can open an issue, they can use the same flow to track your issues. You don't have an extra internal issues or external issues because they are integrated internally. Same wise, when you're doing you can use Trello to do internal alignments and publicize them so that others can participate as well. So internal workflow and public workflow should be integrated. What are the difficulties when your developers are unaware of these good practices? Then there might be a data leak such as passwords. You can consider using services like Google Cloud. So they will scan and check if you have private keys listed on a public platform. Communication have difficulties in language and time zones. For example, if you have a French participants in your team, they can only reply you every other day. Then you might consider when you are typing your message, don't just put in fragmented messages. If you have a good CI/CD system and you have a completed document, for example, 2 space, 4 space, they can immediately catch up on the issue, so that it saves up time. And when you're managing a public inspector, there are extra costs in managing them. So it depends on how much time you're going to spend on organizing those informations. So we also put our project on LikeCoin. So if we have committed an issue, then we will provide respective LikeCoins for you. So we use ETH things quite often. We have open API. When you're writing web or app features, we usually use front-end back-end separation pattern. So web and API are separated. You need an independent API system. If you're using Mockup 2.0 standard, when you're writing your API, use JWT for authentication token, then it will make things easier. When doing internally, you are doing authentication. When you are using your API, it should be you need to define the rights, access rights. When you're writing them and well categorized your internal API, and you are using your OAuth 2.0, then you have your OAuth 2.0 authentication API. Then you have got one open API. You need well documentation for this. We use Postman, a tool for testing and developing, and we have an API documentation. So what are the difficulties when designing your open API? You can see big brands when they are doing OAuth 2.0, Facebook, GitHub, Twitter. When you're doing an OAuth scope, a developer's council is quite complicated. If there are sensitive access rights, you need to look into the developers. It consumes human cost. If you don't do it, then it will become a scenario of Cambridge Analytica, and it costs the users security and privacy is at risk if you don't do it. So you need security audit. But security audit is costly. Documentation. We use Postman. Postman is not open source. If you have suggestions, please raise. We have sample course for presentation and demo. After that, we will commit back to, and we use sandbox and user guide, and developer documentations are written in Gitbook. If you have a misspelling on Gitbook, they will spot it, and you don't need to go through an email process. If you're using Gitbook, there are translation tools available to use Git, so different languages can use it as well. This is our LikeCoin hackathon. All documents and open APIs are available. You can unleash your creativity, and there are participants. It's just our experience, and please raise yours. And if it doesn't fit you, I think you will find some of them useful, and try to be open. And slowly, you will find out more ways to be open. There are things that are specific to blockchain company. Blockchain is not only fintech. You can join our different channels to see what are the applications of blockchain technology. So this is an ad from ICN.